Hello everyone, welcome to my final presentation for LSC 511. Today we're going to be talking about making your library's social media more accessible. The vast majority of Americans are on social media, so it makes sense that more and more libraries are using social media platforms to reach audiences that are not able to come to the library in person, promote programs and services, and help you connect with new people. The most common reasons libraries are using social media are to share events and event photos, share library services, and highlight collections. Some of the biggest hurdles that libraries face when using social media are growing their audience and having the staff to support and maintain it. In a 2017 survey, it was found that 56% of libraries are spending less than 5 hours per week on their social media. The most commonly used platforms are Facebook, then Twitter, and Instagram. So those are the platforms I'm going to be focusing on my presentation today. Social media is becoming a critical way that libraries are reaching patrons, and it's estimated that 20% of the population has a disability. Meaning that if you're making content that's not accessible to everyone, you are significantly limiting its reach and effectiveness before it's even put out. If libraries are going to be spaces that are open and welcoming to all, we need to ensure that it extends to all forms of communication with our patrons as well. This presentation is only able to cover the general best practices, but it's important, as with any accessibility issue, that you continue to take the time to see how these changes are developing, especially as platforms continue to make updates. Accessibility guidelines are essentially the same across all platforms, but depending on what you're using, there are some differences in how that's achieved. So I want to talk more generally about best practices and guidelines, and then go into specifics about how you do captioning and alternative text on each platform specifically. When writing the text for a post, it should be written using plain language. This means avoiding jargon, using common words that are easy to understand, and using clear and short sentences, and writing in an active voice. There are federal plain language guidelines that can be accessed online anytime if you'd like to learn more. Using plain language helps to make sure whatever point you're trying to get across is easy for the reader to understand. Adjustments to hashtags and emoji use are similar in that they help people who are using assistive technology such as a screen reader. When you post hashtags, you're going to want to use something called camel case. This means that you're capitalizing each word in the hashtag. If you don't, the screen reader will try to read it all as one word, and by capitalizing each word, it will see it as separate words. You should use emojis sparingly, and spaces should be put between each one. A screen reader will read out what the image is, such as clapping hands. If you're using too many emojis, it can become confusing. For example, if you saw a block of all green emojis, the screen reader might say shamrock, green square, spring tree, leaf, green heart. And you can see after several of them how it can be quite cumbersome. As well, if you use type instead of an emoji, that screen reader won't interpret it. For example, if you make a smiley face, it would just be read as :D. Any text you have over images or colors should have a contrast ratio of 4.5 to 1, and this is set out by the ADA guidelines. Luckily for us, there are some great websites that help you determine when this is happening because it can be hard to tell on your own. One of which I'll show you now. Using the Accessible Color Palette Builder, you can see which colors fall under the ADA guidelines by adding their hex codes. As you can see here, most of these colors don't create accessible combinations, and this is something to keep in mind when choosing your fonts as well. Thin fonts or overly decorative fonts make it hard to read. Finally, I want to talk about alternative text. Alternative text is a description of images or graphics, and it's not just for social media. You want it to have anything pertinent to understanding what is happening that somebody should know. This could be what the background looks like, who's in the photo, what the person is wearing, or more. Additionally, if there's any text on a graphic, you should put it in the alternative text because a screen reader can't read what is on the image itself. You don't need to add statements like this is a photo of or this is an image of at the beginning of the description. You can dive right into it. Now, I want to show you how you can add alternative text to a photo using my currently profile picture as an example on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'll note that if you're using a platform such as Hootsuite or Buffer to organize your posts, you can sometimes add alternative text directly into those platforms before the post is scheduled to go out. Sometimes there are limitations though. On Facebook, adding alternative text before an image is posted is the same as adding a caption to the video, which we'll talk about later. To add alternative text, after you upload a photo though, go to the picture and then choose the 3 little dots next to your name. You can choose change alt text from the drop-down menu, and there you'll see it pop up, and you can write whatever your alternative text would like to be. On Instagram, you can add alt text to an Instagram photo when you're uploading it. Once you've gotten to the page where you're adding caption, location, and things like that, you'll see a drop-down menu that says accessibility. When you click on it, you can put your alt text in. If you don't see this when you're posting your Instagram, you might not have the accessibility settings turned on, so you'd have to go into your setting options and make that change. Another generally accepted practice is putting your alt text as part of the caption itself, because it's only a very recent change that has allowed you to add alt text to the image when uploading. On Twitter, to add alt text description, after you've selected the photo you'd like to post, you're going to go to the bottom and choose Add Description. Then you'll see a box underneath your photo pop up where you can type it right in. Now we're going to talk about captioning videos. Adding captions to all your videos is essential, but it works a little bit differently on each platform as well. For Facebook, you can add caption files when you post them. After selecting the video, you can choose Edit, and then you can select the file you'd like to add from your computer. Note that it does have to be an SRT file, so be mindful of that when you're getting ready to upload it. And remember, this is the same process for adding alt text, but instead of uploading a file, you just write in the alt text directly. On Instagram, captioning for a video should be put onto the video itself because Instagram doesn't allow you to add separate captioning file. Captioning doesn't just stop with the videos you put in your feed though. It should also be added to your reels and stories too. Basically any video where there is talking. For Twitter, captioning is essentially the same as Instagram. You're going to want to put that in the video itself because, again, you can't upload a captioning file. In conclusion, making your communications, including your social media, more accessible not only helps individuals with disabilities, but everyone else as well. And this is the basic principle for universal design. When you make a design that's usable for everyone, then it's accessible to everyone as well by default. It is essential that we are always considering how we can make our library spaces more welcoming and inclusive for any person who might want to use our services. The questions I pose to you all are, have you seen any of these strategies being used by people you follow on social media or wrote about in your #OwnVoicesQuickWrites? If so, did they help you engage with the content in a more meaningful way? Do you have experience posting social media for an organization? It doesn't have to be a library. And did you use any of these accessibility methods? Are there additional guidelines you would add to increase accessibility even further? based on our readings or videos from this course? And finally, how do you use social media to help educate yourself on disability advocacy efforts? If you don't currently, is there something you plan on doing moving forward? Thank you for joining me for my presentation today. On my handout, you'll find a summation of the essential points from this presentation. I hope you've learned something, and I look forward to seeing your discussion posts and your activities. Thank you.